Peace be to you. In the Cotton Marine. Let us begin with a question.
But yeah, so Simon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Not a problem. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm a little tired as we rush toward what we're doing at the moment, but otherwise I'm very well.
Yeah, you've got a big well, I guess it's almost a national tour, isn't it?
Yeah, we call it, well, it's not quite national this time, but we're calling it So Father Shannon Bouquet, the president of Human Life International, he's coming this Saturday. He arrives in New Zealand and he's here for 2 weeks.
Very good.
Yeah, and it'll be going to... Where are we going? We're starting in Hamilton, then Taupo, then back up to here, to Auckland, then Whangarei, Pukekohe, and finishing again in Auckland.
I feel that's pretty national. North Island, right?
Well, yeah, North Island, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that's always struck me about New Zealand is it's a small place.
It really is.
It's vast, though. If you're traveling from South Auckland or South-ish Auckland to the North Shore, you might as well be going to Hamilton. It's a different place. Anytime there's a body of water to cross, people find it difficult, I find.
Yeah, and Auckland's a really awkward shape because of its two harbours.
Yeah. Well, also the volcanoes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's a very mountainous area and very skinny.
It is.
Not a lot of space. They started building up even before they had skyscrapers with all the mountains and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, there have been homes for a long time. Yeah.
But so you've got Father Shannon or Sheenan?
Shannon, it's spelled Sheenan, but
Right.
it's pronounced Shannon.
And
Father Shannon J. Bouquet.
Because he came over last year?
Yes, he was here. The last mission trip he did was last year, and he was also over for our last conference.
Mind-blowing. I went to his talk at Holy Family Parish, and
Right.
it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Everything from the Mass to every word he said afterwards, it was just really good stuff.
He's a great teacher. He has great insights, and obviously very, very well trained from the point of view of understanding of the moral and bioethical issues from a truly Catholic perspective.
Very good. Very good. Well, we keep on talking about things that you're doing, but we haven't actually talked about you or what you do. So can you give us a quick introduction?
Okay. My name is Simon Archer. I am a married man. My wife Angela and I have 11 children. So, not surprisingly, we are Catholic, but I wasn't always Catholic.
Right.
And in fact, I wouldn't mind just sharing, if it's appropriate, a little bit of my story and so on respect of that, because it's kind of like a pro-life story. So, Angela and I met at high school, and like many young people, we got together. And the year after I left high school, she became pregnant, and at that stage I was a shrug-the-shoulders agnostic, having been raised in a very good Anglican household, but allowed to kind of drift. And from that point, the pregnancy was that's quite tricky, isn't it? I'll make it a short story and jump to the end of it. We were going to adopt our baby out. Angela was shipped off, in a sense, to Rosanna Hostel, which was run by the Good Shepherd Sisters in Lower Hutt, in Waiwatu Lower Hutt. And it's a bit like our St. Gianna's home, a home for unwed expectant mums. The combination of the witness of Angela herself and the sisters who were looking after her and a priest who helped us a lot all warmed me up. Easter Sunday of 1977, after our baby was born, we changed our minds about adopting her out and decided where we're going to keep her, get married and so on. One of the conditions of that was that I should become not I should become Catholic. No, that's the wrong. One of the conditions of that was that I would agree that our children would be raised Catholic, baptized as Catholic. And I remember saying, yep, that's fine, because remember, I was a shrug-the-shoulders agnostic. But I remember thinking about that and then going and seeing a priest and talking to him about that and asking a whole lot of questions, which led me to the Catholic Church.
It's quite an interesting story, because I feel like some of the terminology used, and actually just the story itself, it seems kind of very old-fashioned.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking the 70s, so pretty old-fashioned, no jokes. But like, it does seem like something you would, woman gets pregnant outside of marriage, gets shipped off to a bunch of nuns, and the whole story. But it also, like, from my Catholic inclination, even though I guess from my millennial perspective of me being a millennial is that's kind of weird and old fashioned. My Catholic kind of side is more, that's a really amazing kind of provision for people who are in that situation. Because especially nowadays, it seems very odd, that whole story.
It's an unusual story in today's context. Yeah, it was. Even then, it was unusual. I was the only guy who regularly visited. There were about a dozen or so young ladies there, and I was the only guy who ever visited and was welcomed by the sisters. So even then, it was unusual from that perspective. But at that stage, the default setting wasn't abortion, and it never entered the equation for us.
Right.
It would have been possible, but it never entered the equation for us.
Oh, wow. So it's a completely different kind of worldview that you're coming from there.
Even then.
Wow, yeah. What's that, 50 years ago?
Yeah, very nearly. Very nearly. That daughter, our eldest daughter, is approaching 50. She'll be 50 in 2 years' time.
That's insane. Well,
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. So yeah, you started out. I mean, when you say shrug the shoulders agnostic, that was very much my upbringing too. I came to the faith later on in life, less dramatic term events, but you started out as an agnostic, and now not only are you Catholic, but you're acting in the Family Life International, the pro-life space.
Yep.
Which I feel is, a very activist. You can't be a shrug the shoulders pro-lifer. I don't feel.
Not possible.
No,
You're quite right. You're either fully in or just unsure at a minimum. We remained pro-life all the way through. From that point on, from that
so
point
were
of that story.
you pro-life? I mean,
I wasn't aware that I was pro-life until we had a deeper conversion in about 1982, early 80s, which where a priest friend of ours, well, he became a friend at the time. He was just someone who was butting his way in. He challenged us. He basically said, well, what do you think the church actually says about these things? And we didn't have adequate answers. We stumblingly said whatever we said, which didn't impress him, and he gave us Humanae Vitae to read.
Right.
Now that, if you read that and accept that, then you can't help but be pro-life.
That's
that's
the equivalent of reading the Church Fathers. If you're Protestant, it's dangerous. You're going to be Catholic.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So at that stage, we had four under five, and so a very quick succession.
Right. Yeah.
And we were thinking, well, that's it.
Right.
But then
you got 11.
And then came Humanae Vitae, and that completely changed things for us.
Yeah.
So it changed our perspective and opened us up to just the sheer beauty of life, and what our role, responsibility, and the reason we were here really was about as a husband and wife and raising a family. So that's what happened. We were open to life, and yes, we had quite a few more children.
Yeah. I'm just kind of reflecting on your story and how it's affecting me, and I'm finding it quite challenging. Your story, even from a Catholic perspective, just this whole mentality of that, like, the perspective was so different. And I think this is something that we don't have today. We don't have this understanding of, previous generations' perspectives, other cultures' perspectives. We're very locked into the contemporary world, and we often look back at history with contemporary eyes and are shocked and appalled. And I feel like maybe that's a bit what's happening to me now. You found out you were pregnant, and not only did you do this, but there was an option to go see a group of nuns,
Yeah.
and. And then because when you said you were going to adopt out the baby, that was interesting as well, because I don't know how often that happens nowadays. I haven't really done the research either, but like I don't know how often people think, okay, I'll bring this to term, we'll give it away to somebody else.
Yeah.
So this is quite. You shook me.
Then it was more normal for adoptions to be closed adoptions. And today, that's a very rare thing indeed, if not virtually unheard of. Adoption is not something easily achieved today for all sorts of reasons, many of which would be the way in which social policy is developed, applied, supported, channeled.
Right.
And so it's extremely difficult to successfully adopt out. But it's also pushed into the background as being almost an unacceptable option for many people.
Oh, okay. Well, I think before we get too down this rabbit hole, where are we up to? You've got 4 kids under 5. You're in the early 80s, and you've just found out that actually you are pro-life.
Yeah.
Are you Catholic yet?
Oh yes. So I became Catholic after Bridget was born, our eldest daughter, and before we married. So we actually had a nuptial mass, which was kind of like a healing sort of a thing.
Wow.
To begin our marriage that way. It was quite fantastic. So yes, I've been Catholic ever since. But for the first busy 5 years of our married life, it was good 1 hour a week Catholic existence without a whole lot of additional stuff, if you like, beyond that. And it really wasn't until we had that deeper conversion experience, part of which was what I mentioned about Humanae Vitae, that our faith life became central to.
So what was
who
that
we were.
Conversion experience?
It was the Holy Spirit, obviously, stirring things up, and it was happening for both my wife Angela and I, kind of in parallel, with the Humanae Vitae thing being the glue of it for our marriage.
Right.
Not that our marriage was in any difficulty, but it really you've got to be very serious with each other and about each other if you're going to make natural fertility awareness and so on something is at the heart of how you live.
Yeah, definitely. I think that can be quite challenging, especially nowadays. We live in this melting pot of different cultures. I've had friends that have kind of moved away from the faith because they've lived in a big city and they've made friends with these people that are like Buddhist, that are Muslim, that are Hindu, and then they have a powerful experience and we say the Catholic Church is the one true faith, and they say, yeah, but what about these people over here? They're very nice, and they just can't bring those two together. And like then within relationships, you know, not everyone's married, not every Catholic's marrying a Catholic.
True.
And then not every Catholic's read Humanae Vitae, you know. So then you've got the different degrees, you know. And so yeah, having that like solid foundation in marriage is like it's essential, you know. Having that same philosophy. Yeah, a priest friend said to me that once. He said, sometimes it's more important to have a similar philosophy than it is to have a similar faith, because he said he knew of this couple, and the bloke never became a Catholic, but he raised the most Catholic family in his parish. Yeah, because they got on board with it and said, this is what we're going to do.
Yep.
Because then we also have the difficulty of faith's a gift.
Yep.
You can't force faith.
And that was really what was behind my going and seeing that priest after we made that decision that we were going to marry and keep our baby. I was thinking, well, okay, I've said yes, that's okay that I raise Catholics, but what does that mean? Don't I have a responsibility? I'm going to be the father of these children. Shouldn't I at least understand what it is I'm committing to? That was my thinking.
Yeah, that's smart. That's a good way of going into it. And so this conversion was... The deeper conversion was after you had children.
After we'd had 4, and we're thinking that was it. We weren't going to have any more. Then even to the point of considering me having a vasectomy at that point.
Wow.
Even to that, that was a consideration.
Right.
And that's really why that priest challenged us.
Oh, I see. Okay. Brilliant.
So, yeah.
Because one thing that I'm loving about this story at the moment is I feel like in Catholic circles we're a bit too clean cut, a bit too fine brushed. If you go to a Catholic content creator, they're going to be talking about Thomas Aquinas, church fathers, church teaching, and it's very black and white.
Yep.
Do the Catholic thing, don't do the not Catholic thing. And then it comes on to something that's a bit more, which I suppose Pope Francis challenged a lot, which was he brought in these grey areas, maybe a bit too much, with his encyclicals and statements he made. But there is a reality there that I feel isn't really broached. And for example, you're saying, you're running this Family Life International, very Catholic organization, very good Catholic now. But that's not how it started, and that's a story. That's a real life story, and I feel like we have kind of this mentality of you do it the right way, or otherwise you're wrong. Yeah.
Well, life's messy though, so you can't just do it that way.
No, and I think it's a tough thing to come across as, because I feel like the culture has embraced that perception of life's messy, and they say, well, go and be messy then. You've been drawn deeper, and so you were this agnostic, you had a child, you conceived a child, and then you became a Catholic, but even then you were only just Catholic.
Yep.
And then even within that Catholicism, you were considering something that was very un-Catholic of vasectomy.
Yep.
But then you went deeper again, but it wasn't through... I studied Thomas Aquinas. I did this theological degree, or I looked. It was just through. I'm just gonna do what I think's right to do, and seek guidance.
Yeah, I do want to emphasise that that reading of Humanae Vitae was probably the first serious bit of catechesis that we had, apart from my preparation to enter the church in the first place.
Right.
Since then, the catechesis ongoing in a normal parish sense was baptismal courses, things along those lines. So not really very deep. It was our own desire to learn more that took us deeper, and we were seeking to know more and understand our faith more.
So, but that did that. So did that desire come about through... where did that desire come about? Because it sounds like it was... I'm thinking about getting a vasectomy, and a priest pulled you aside and was like, oh, maybe you shouldn't read this book first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it certainly wasn't a simple case of, now we're convinced that's it. Going hand in hand with that is obviously the Holy Spirit working, and we being encouraged to pray and to share with other people and to learn more about the church. We did some deep dives into Lumen Gentium, one of the key documents of the Vatican Council.
So how did you decide to do this? Because I remember, and I've said this a few times on the podcast, when I converted, I I said to my friend jokingly, so when the water goes over my head, the Vatican II documents go in as well, right? Do I have to read those? Because I'm, ADHD, dyslexia, not really good at reading, and so I didn't want to read them, but like I felt like I should, like I have to. So, what made you want to do that? Because you're an average Catholic, a Sunday Catholic, right?
Yeah. Encouragement from the same priest friend who became a real mentor for us and is a lifelong friend now. Encouragement from him. We were not trackers of his as such, but he certainly helped us to become more curious, to seek to understand more, and to make our Catholic faith more complete. So really, once you start down that path, I think, at least that's my experience, once you start down that path, you want to know more. You want to find out more about the faith.
What kind of things did this priest friend do that were the encouragement that you needed? Because I feel like this is a great lesson for evangelism for us. Yep. Because I find myself in a work environment where there's Christians, they're not all Catholic, and there's people that aren't of faith, and there are people that are of different faiths. Yep. And so this sounds like a good maybe strategy for how do I convey my Catholicism to people?
Find like-minded people, draw them together, meet regularly, with turn those into teaching sessions in one form or another, have fun at the same time. So it's a combination of people you get to know and love, and learning about your faith, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So this priest formed those groups, did he?
Yep. And
so that was just within your parish?
Initially within the parish, and then later on it was a wider kind of a community. So yep.
And so he was the one leading the teachings?
Usually, yes. Not always, but usually.
Yeah. But you got other people in, and so okay. Through that, you got the encouragement. So did you, as a group, all go through Lumen Gentium and all these things?
There was a course that he put together. That was, I think there would have been perhaps half a dozen couples who were regular participants in that Lumen Gentium dive.
But it's more of a casual thing. So, hey guys, I'm going to be doing this. You guys want to join in, or?
Yeah, he was always looking for what's going to help people become more authentically Catholic, more under. That sounds a little twee, doesn't it? More have a more complete understanding, but it also then moved into more practical kind of things. So, for example, if you're going to evangelize, which is what we're called to do, how do you go about doing that?
Yes, that's good. So he would bring up those questions.
Yeah. Okay. So he would do things like saying, okay. The gospel can be boiled down to three things. God loves, we sin, Jesus saves, well, four things, and we respond. Now, that's the core of it, but how do you build your own story around those four things?
Right.
So that if you are having a conversation with someone and they're curious or they're challenging you or whatever, you've got some things you can hook into with your story. So simple evangelism like that.
Yeah. Because I think one of the things that always strikes me about Catholicism, and you see this a lot in theology of the body, but also in various other areas, is just how interesting it actually is. And like how it really hits certain levels that you didn't even think of. But like there is, again, coming from my perspective as not really an academic, let's say, I'm not inclined to do theology or be a theologian or be a philosopher. I always say with this podcast, look, if you want theology and philosophy, go to Bishop Barron, go to Matt Fradd. I ain't doing it. We're talking about stuff and we're Catholic and we're curious, but that's not the kind of stuff you're going to get from me. Mainly because it's not in my wheelhouse. But then I've just done an interview with April Holden, and she opened up the fall of man
Right.
from Genesis in like 3 sentences that just ripped right through me.
Yeah.
And it spoke to me as a man, it spoke to me as a human, and it was no longer just a Bible verse. It was now a story of humanity.
Yeah.
And then realizing that, and then doing things like the Shroud of Turin tour, realizing, this is real.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to hold on to those things, because they fade.
Well, it's something I can't remember exactly how you said it, but I would say there's the sheer richness of the Catholic faith. It's kind of like entering into a treasure trove or a library of endless interest, or even a museum full of fantastic treasures and artworks and the like, but all with meaning.
Right.
So yeah, it's eternally interesting.
Yeah. So before we get too far off track, I do want to go deeper into this topic, but Humana Vitae deepened your faith.
Yes, indeed.
This priest friend of yours was the conduit
Yep.
to finding out more.
An instrument of the Holy Spirit.
And then you just became director of Family Life International.
I'm not director. I'm just a helper.
You came to work
I'm
here.
a helpmate. Yes, I came to work here. So, no, I had all sorts of different roles, jobs, and so on, and then got approached by Dame Colleen Bayer,
Right.
founder of Family Life International, who I had met many years before, and she just approached me one day and said, "Would you be interested in working for FLI full time?" And so I came on board. There was the possibility of me being the manager or whatever, but in the end, I didn't really have the same drive that I needed to do that. So I'm more of a I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll help with events, I'll do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, dog's body.
A well-groomed dog's body, hopefully.
No, I think that's a good place to be. A worker.
Yeah.
The man in the field, getting things done. Backbone of like most places. Definitely feel like that as a nurse on the floor in the ED. I'm not a charge nurse, I'm not a senior nurse, but there's a lot of us, and without us there wouldn't be much else. No, that's cool. So like, was that how long have you been doing this job then?
I joined at the beginning of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, so relatively recent.
So that's about 20 years after this conversion.
Yeah.
And so were you still doing Catholic things, or were you just being a Catholic in the world for 20 years until this kind of happened?
I was being a Catholic in the world for 20 years. I wasn't involved in any particular ministries or outreaches or anything along those lines. But we were living a pretty full Catholic life.
Yeah, and how did that look? Did that have any significant moments that come to mind in those 20 years of this is a moment where I was able to be Catholic in this non-Catholic environment or in different place?
Yeah, I think more in one-on-one conversations with people than in any group type setting.
Yeah.
It certainly informed how I approached my work. You're a nurse. I worked in the health sector for quite some time,
right.
As horrible term that it is in HR and human resource management. So I was in senior HR roles in Tauranga back in the area health board days, in Middlemore or South Auckland Health and the Crown Health Enterprise days, and then I've done a little bit of other stuff from time to time as well. So why do I mention that? Because I think it was it helped me to not get drawn into scientific management and drag kind of stuff.
Right.
Not get drawn into the latest fad or approach or whatever, as though if only we did this or if only we did that, then people would do what we needed them to do. Which is where my reaction to human resources is problematic. I used to like to say work is for people, not people for work.
Right.
So it's kind of like a core philosophy of an approach, that understanding that we are co-creators.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point, actually. It's one of those more boring things. It's not like, I spoke to 6 people in that time and they all had amazing conversion experiences. I often call them evangelizations, where you're evangelizing, but it was in conversation.
Yes.
It wasn't, I'm going to go find that person, I'm going to make them Catholic. And maybe you don't, but again, it's about planting seeds, and you do that through, I always say, in order to be interesting, you need to be interested. And being interested in our faith makes us interesting in a new way, in that we are able to expound on things that people don't have words for. We're able to have a kind of like, there's the eternal perspective, but you have kind of like a bird's eye view of where you're at. Sometimes I feel I can have a kind of, not an out of body experience, but I can remove myself from a situation a bit easier, because my gaze is slightly elevated.
Yep.
Not in a superior way, but just I'm looking at something else.
Yep.
But yeah, you had those good. You had a few good conversations, and it was your faith that didn't just inform discussion, but informed perspective.
And what I would find acceptable and not acceptable. So there'd be things that, no, I wouldn't go down this path because that wasn't going to be morally appropriate, or it was just plain wrong, and that it wasn't treating people with dignity.
Yeah, and I think, without faith, anything's fair game. There's a podcast I keep on referencing, Eric Weinstein, a world-renowned physicist. He says that religion, you can have a hoot without religion, but if everyone's having a hoot, then no one's having a hoot. He doesn't say, that's not an exact quote, but we need religion. Religion gives people the ability to relax because it is a structure that's essential for society. And it's for things like this, for this, not just, because of ethics, not just, because of morals, not just because, we have this 10 Commandments, or we have these things, but because the whole concept promotes a, I don't know, I don't want to say holistic, but like a human-centered, but a full understanding of the human.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The glory of God is man fully alive.
Yeah. Because I think without our faith, I'm just kind of working this out myself, mulling it over and spitballing, is without our faith, we're very utilitarian. What feels good, what feels bad. And that goes from anything from like diet and exercise to, procedures in the hospital to the way you practice business. What feels good? More money. Okay, do the thing that gets more money. That's the good thing. You know? What feels good? Eating these things. Those things are not good for you.
It's both utilitarian and incredibly self-centered. It's the disease of the world today.
Yeah. It's almost like it's self-centered, but like that's kind of meant in a not in a judgmental kind of being self-centered is wrong, even though it is. It's more of a because there is no other center.
That's it.
It's like calling someone a narcissist is an insult nowadays, but it's also a description of a personality type. And so some people will be more inclined towards narcissism than others, and they're not being narcissists, in that they're not choosing it. They're just, that's an inclination of theirs, and self-centeredness is an inclination of humanity.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the big challenge of Christianity is the denial of ourselves, the dying to oneself, in order to accept that God has the real answers, God has the real help and root, and it's through that we're going to find our true happiness and weirdly our freedom.
Yes,
there's the great conundrum for people to look at Christianity and go, well, how can you be truly free if you're abiding by a whole lot of rules and saying, God, you're in control?
Yes. I saw a clip the other day. Russell Brand was commenting on something. A comedian, older fella, has a show. What's his name? It'll come to me later. Anyway, this guy was saying the Ten Commandments are rubbish. It doesn't mention this. It doesn't mention that. It doesn't mention the first part of it's all narcissism and ego-centeredness of God. Can't worship other gods. And Russell Brand, I'm glad he said it, because in the moment I was like, oh, I don't know what to say. But he said, yes, because if you are focused on the God, the one true God, all those horrible things you mentioned, like gun crimes, rape, this, that, the other, aren't an option. Because you're focused on, and your eyes are set to a different level. And again, not in a superior way, just I'm looking at something different, which means I'm not looking at what's happening. I'm not. It's not an option for me. It's not an option for me to go and murder someone because, going back to the beginning of the show, your perspective when you were younger, abortion was not off the table, but it wasn't really an option because
we didn't even talk about it. We didn't even. Yeah, neither Angela and I even discussed it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't because I knew she was Catholic and didn't want to talk about it. It was that neither of us considered it.
Yeah, it's not even an option. I think that's a really good. Even though I didn't mean it to go this way, there's a really good parallel. Thank God you're here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think. This brings me into the conversation that I want to kind of go more deeply into today, and it's quite pertinent, especially today, because we had, the assassination of a great voice for justice and virtue, Charlie Kirk. He was, for those that don't know him, he was a political pundit, really, but also a strong Christian, strong advocate of humanity, masculinity, and just good values. Known for going onto university campuses and talking to younger people, typically about politics, but inevitably about deeper things, faith-related things, because we're human.
It was certainly very pro-life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That was a feature. And almost always would have been one of the central topics in any of the discussions on campuses, because he would take questions, right? So almost inevitably abortion rights and all those kind of things would come up.
Yeah.
And he would talk about them.
Yeah. So, because when we hear pro-life, immediately we think babies in the womb. However, the criticism that you hear sometimes from people on the pro-choice side is, okay, so what about when it comes out? You guys are nowhere to be seen. That's completely incorrect. But also, what about this 31-year-old man? He was alive. He had life. And so, how do we process? Well, how do we process his life? How do we process our lives? It's one of those things that we just have. We never think about.
I think I'm speculating here, but I think that his assassination is going to be one of those martyrdom moments that is going to change things for a lot of people. I'm hoping that is the case. He knew what the risks were. He had minders with him. He knew that he was under attack a lot of the time. And he knew that a lot of people who were against what he stood for didn't regard violence toward him or toward others sharing his viewpoints and so on as necessarily a bad thing.
Right, yeah.
So there is a real martyrdom type thing about that.
And this is, and because again, in the news recently, there's been a lot to do with life and death.
Yep.
We've had the school shootings. That was an attack on Catholicism and on conservatives in America. We've had, this assassination, but then we've also had on the other side, which we'll get into in a bit, Carlo Acutis. What's his name? Frassati?
Pier Giorgio Frassati.
Yes, I don't remember it.
It's a great name, but it takes a little bit to get it to roll off the tongue.
we can see in this moment, we can see life, death, and resurrection.
Yes.
And I think what's beautiful about the life of, so there's so much to process. I don't really know where to start, but with the lives of these kids that were shot, there's some heroic stories of kids that threw their own bodies over someone else to protect them.
Yeah.
We see Charlie Kirk, and when I think of him, I think of living out your vocation, having a call and going to the fullest extent of it. Because as you mentioned, he knew that he was putting himself in danger, and we see this with all these political pundits like Ben Shapiro, Matt Fradd maybe, Matt Walsh.
Yeah.
Michael Knowles. They've been attacked in the past. They get death threats regularly.
Yep.
But they are living a life that they're called to, and isn't that what we're all supposed to do?
Well, it is authentically Christian, isn't it? Jesus laid down his life for us. If we are to follow him, then we either figuratively and or literally lay down our lives for him.
Yeah. So there's that understanding of death, of dying to self. I always say that Catholicism's kind of oxymoronic in that it says in order to live fully, you must first die to yourself.
Yeah.
And how, especially today, how cheap it seems that like right now I'm saying I'm dying to myself because I'm not going to have as many chocolates in a moment because I've realized I'm putting on some weight. But that is a small death, and what a wonderful God that takes that as a sacrifice. And then we are put in the face of this man that was assassinated, was murdered. Again, if you look back over his videos, the opinion people had of him does not correlate with the words that came out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's almost cartoonish in the way it's played out. You hear the language, the soundbite statements, and when that one doesn't work, they abandon that. They try the next one. They don't actually listen to and respond and engage by and large with what he's got to say. Some do, and those are really fantastic. And no doubt that's why he kept on at it, because he was changing some people's hearts and minds.
Yeah. And they're looking at him through an ideological lens. They've decided who he is already before he started speaking, and it doesn't add up. I think because when I first started watching Charlie, when he was in his 20s, he did seem a lot more fiery. And I think in the last couple of years, I feel like he's just as powerful, but like from a deeper strength of a deeper peace, where he's explicitly saying, look, I'm not here to condemn you. I just want to hear your points of view and want to have a discussion. And I want to talk to you about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, I guess, I'm thinking that, again, there's lots of parallels here of this priest friend of yours, and he just constantly was poking, prodding, seeking ways to bring you in.
Yes.
And we see this, so we can live this life, this heroic life, and pray to God it doesn't end in the same way.
Yeah. I remember coming across in the Vatican Museum, me with a group of other people, we were in a vestibule in the Vatican Museum, and we saw a picture that struck us quite profoundly. It wasn't a painting. It wasn't a particularly wonderful painting or anything along those lines, but what it represented was very, very powerful. And so what it was of a plinth in the middle of the floor, marbled floor, and a bust of Caesar had fallen off the plinth and smashed on the floor, and beyond it was the cross, and beyond that the heavenly lights. And what it said to us was per crucem ad lucem. In fact, it may even have had that title, through the cross to the light. And it's that way that you overcome the world. Caesar busted, through the cross to the light. So there is a kind of a calling there all the way. Now, for most of us, our crosses are maybe small sacrifices, the occasional cold shower or whatever we might do in the way of a sacrifice. But ultimately, it can lead to assassination, or martyrdom of one form, a red martyrdom rather than a white martyrdom. What we aspire to, if we are being as authentically Christian as we can be, is white martyrdom.
So red martyrdom's obviously
Blood.
Being killed. So what is a white martyrdom?
It's denying oneself more and more for the sake of others. So if we read the lives of the saints over and over and over again, we see that is the reality. That's what their life is about. Yeah,
and I think it's beautiful seeing that. Again, this. I remember having a friend, and he said, he hopes he's red martyrdom, because then it's quicker. You get into heaven. It's very, black and white, or
Yeah.
It's easier to understand or comprehend. But man, I read some of these stories about people that are thrown into fiery furnaces, and I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like we talking about that life of martyrdom that we're called to, and it doesn't have to end in death. Going into your everyday with your Catholic faith. That's having that perspective, and praying with your whole heart that it's a story not like the prophet Jeremiah, but maybe a bit nicer, maybe one like Mary's, assumed into heaven.
Yeah, but then if you reflect on the Seven Sorrows chaplet, for example, you find her life was not an easy life.
Yeah, there's no way out of it. Hey.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's and yet in the midst of all that, there was peace and joy. And this is the. It's not a dichotomy. It's a mystery, isn't it?
I've been reflecting a lot recently on. I couldn't tell you which part of the Bible it's in, but the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I'm a very good Catholic, so I'm doing Bible in a year. That's how I know about them. Well, those names are echoed throughout Catholicism. You hear it all the time. And the story where they get sent into a fiery furnace to die because they won't bend down and worship, I think it's Nebuchadnezzar, or the gods that he allowed. And they get put in this fire, and as they're going in, their attitude, it seems, is one of, we should probably pray for help about this. And so they say a prayer, and it's a good prayer. And it's a genuine prayer, and it's from the heart. It's more like a conversation than a recited Hail Mary or a chaplet. And then they go into this fire continuing to pray, and the fire doesn't touch them.
Yep.
And I correlate that with Peter walking on the water. He's walking on the water, his eyes are stuck on Jesus, and he starts walking on the water. But the second he starts not looking at Jesus, he starts sinking. And the flames didn't consume those 3 lads, but I imagine they would have felt the heat. If not, they would have had the understanding that they're going into a fire and what fire is. And, I feel like, how do we foster that in ourselves in order to be able to face the things that we see? And like, here's a real life example: Charlie Kirk, getting death threats to the point where he has to have security, being attacked verbally, physically, and in this case more physically than we'd like him to. How do we have that perception? How do we have a Catholic perspective on this whole situation?
You mentioned earlier on the heroic stories that have come out of the school shooting, the church shooting of the Catholic school kids at Mass, and how there were some of those kids threw themselves on the top of friends to take the hits. They wouldn't have been processing that and coming to some kind of a judgment kind of decision of, I should do this, I better go up and do that. It would have been a faith-driven response. So what I'm saying is that going into the fiery furnace and so on, sure, it's going to be hot and the light, but you're not thinking, I don't think. Right. You would be thinking at the time of, how is this going to hurt? You're no longer really thinking about yourself. You're thinking about God or about things that God would want you to do. At least I hope that's what why people behave the way they do in such heroic situations.
Yeah.
Because that gives me hope that that's what I would do.
Well, yeah, and it makes me think, if it's not a conscious decision to jump on top of that friend of yours, or are not fully conscious, it's not a, going out and organizing these events, not recklessly, but with precautions in place. Well,
I can give you an every week example from the work that we do. So every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m, or at least every Wednesday morning that I'm in Auckland, myself and a couple of other people will be down fairly near the AMAC abortion facility. It used to be directly over the road from the AMAC abortion facility in Dominion Road, praying. Modern day Calvary, that's the way Father Paul Marks would have described that kind of being there, where the death mills are, and praying for that situation. Now it's not protest, it's prayer, but people know by and large why you are there, and even 150 plus meters away from the facility as we are currently bound to by the so-called safe area / exclusion zone legislation, people still know why we're there. And you get flipped the bird or get abused, or alternatively you get thanked and blessed. Probably more negatives than positives come, but it's an everyday kind of an example.
Yeah, and I think because one thing that struck me about this assassination is how much it's affected me. When I heard about it, my initial reaction was, I was just watching a video about him.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But then I realized how ridiculous that was, because that video was from 6 months ago.
Yep.
So I wasn't just watching a video with him. I wasn't just anywhere with him, but I was. There was this interaction that I had with him, even though he didn't have it with me. And I feel like the whole world feels this one figure, and it strikes me that there is a real disconnectedness in our humanity there, because we're such tangible beings. And in a sense, Charlie Kirk to me was as much as a person as Ross from Friends. Ross from Friends is not a real person. He's a character.
Right.
So is Charlie Kirk, but it's different. It's not... we have these human reactions, and in this world where I've never had a human reaction with him, I'm still having this...
Well, and I understand what you mean by the character, but that's possibly because of the public persona and the medium. But why is the reaction so strong? Perhaps it's because he is authentic. So he's not actually playing a character. He is. He truly was that person.
Well, because there's also... Yeah. He was authentic in his attitude and in his dialogue. But, again, he was real.
Yeah.
And I feel like... I don't know how to put it into words, but there's this link here with, we're about to have our fourth child. She could be in labor right now. She's not.
You would have heard.
Yeah. 39 weeks.
Right.
And there is a real person there.
Mm-hmm.
Never met them, never touched them, never spoken to them, but there's nothing there, but there is something there. And I feel like there's a similar thing here, because I got to know this man, Charlie. And you think that with all these people nowadays, Joe Rogan talks about it, he has these really weird interactions with people. It's like, I listen to you every day for 4 hours, and now I've bumped into you in the street, and he's like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And we live in this weird world now where we're both simultaneously, we're more connected with people we're disconnected with than ever before.
Interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, bringing it back round, life, death, and resurrection, Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati, we are even more connected with them, even though we're disconnected by time, space. Yeah. It's the same thing. We can have this human connection with these men.
Yeah. Yes, they're going to be immensely powerful influences, I think, on Catholic life, particularly for young people, I suspect. But yeah, they're a glorious example.
So how, as someone that works with life and indeed death as part of your job, how do you process these things? Has being part of this organization made you live life in a different way, treat people differently?
No, I think it's possibly honed things rather than made them different. As my understanding of what the issues are that we're dealing with improves with time, so I hopefully become more effective. So we're not simply dealing with abortion. We're on about defending life, faith, and family. So that's our purpose, and that means that from a mission point of view, we're seeking to build a culture of life and a civilization of love, and we do that by promotion and development and so on of in particular the recognition of the dignity of life from the moment of conception to natural death, the fundamental importance of marriage, of authentic marriage between a man and a woman, and the fundamental importance of the natural family as the cradle of civilization, as Pope Leo has recently said. So that's the purpose, the mission, the way we do that, carry out that mission, is by prayer, education, and service. So something like this visit by Father Bouquet that we're just about to launch into is actually an example of all those things, because we'll be calling prayer is definitely a fundamental part of that and underpins everything. The education side of it, well, it's fundamentally educational, and the service side of it is that we'll always be calling people to participate to the best of to the best of their ability and willingness.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm struck by a few. Like, I'm trying to. There's lots of concepts here, which are, I think, both everyday and also completely otherworldly. Like just marriage. It's the most normal thing. Since we were kids, every culture has a form of marriage.
Yes.
Because it's a human thing. Like in Buddhism, where their whole philosophy is disconnectedness from this world, completely disconnected, they had to come up with a rite of marriage because people kept on wanting to get married. And why would you get married if you're a Buddhist? Because it's, antithetical to the whole philosophy. Why would you be connected here? Because we're trying to get to nirvana, And so it is a deeply human thing.
But it's even more deeply human because God designed it that way.
Well, this is, and also like, you get into it. It's the it's an icon of the Trinity.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? What's the Trinity? Let's just start there, shall we?
Oh, you want to start on the easy ones, do you?
Well, this is what I'm saying is like, we are alive. We have life, and we do value our lives, like, subconsciously. But we don't even think about it. We don't even realize, like, how phenomenal and exceptional the fact that we are just breathing is.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, there's the biological, physiological aspect of which is amazing enough, but then the fact that we want to go deeper. And the depth isn't always a philosophical, theological discussion. But if you use that, you can see the light of it. But it is that interaction with another human being. And that spark that, like, you don't put into words. And you're just walking around dealing with this. You're just telling people about it all the time.
Yeah. It's a constant work, like those have just arrived today as resources that have been developed. We'll be giving those out to people when we're out and about on this mission trip. So it's a bit by bit kind of a thing. That we deal with these kind of things this way, or it's one-on-one conversations, or it's one-on-few conversations, or it's whatever opportunity exists, you take it.
So how do you, because again, going back to what I was saying about when I was baptized, I felt like I had to open up the Vatican II documents and just start studying. It sounds like a lot of reading. It sounds like, again, a lot of theology, philosophy, which really isn't my my wheelhouse. But at the same time, it's none of those things that, like, those things are symptomatic of the reality which is. It's like natural law isn't something we came up with; it's something we found.
Yep.
And so, how do you prepare yourself for such a thing?
Well, it is reading. It's discussion. It's where they're available. It's study. As I say these things, I'm much more of the gopher, so I'm much less involved in doing the deep dives from a reading and research point of view. But Michelle Kaufman, our national director, she's really the architect of this kind of these resources here and an awful lot of this kind of material. There's an awful lot of study going on and development of it, distilling of it, and seeking to present it in a highly accessible way.
So, for someone that isn't really the reader, I hear this is what I hear you saying. So, what does it look like for you then, or have you just been dabbling for so long that eventually you've got enough information?
I think it might be a little bit of the latter.
Yeah.
Yes. I do try to keep up my reading, and but I do have a large stack of unread books as well.
Yeah,
so there's a lot more that I could do. And yes, it is a case of perusing what's available, hearing and listening to people who clearly are well versed and very articulate about life issues, whether they be about the bioethical issues, or the issues of marriage or societal issues, where there's cultural Marxism, or however you want to describe it, warping the way people see families and interactions. You've got to keep reading and reflecting, and always praying, always seeking some understanding as to, okay, what do we focus on?
Yeah. So you mentioned, so there is the intellectual preparation, but then there is also the spiritual preparation. Is there anything that you do yourself that you find efficacious spiritually that helps you with this work?
Yeah. Mass.
Yeah.
Regular confession. Morning prayer is critical for me. I struggle when I go lukewarm on that,
right?
And that shows up very quickly for me. So I've got to keep morning prayer going. I'm not so great on the end of day prayer. I get tired and want to go to bed, but that could be a big help for spiritual advancement. As a standard practice here for anybody who's here, and in the facility, we meet at midday for Rosary in the chapel of the Annunciation downstairs.
Right.
So that's really important for us to keep that front and centre. We have Mass here once a week, and more often if we can. So that's critical, that we keep our Eucharistic life going.
So it's just about building into your life checkpoints.
Yes.
Starting to find space and make space for those
things.
things.
And always, as every disciple should be seeking to follow more closely, more perfectly our Lord, picking ourselves up when we do fail, not allowing ourselves to beat ourselves up, which is the Satan's mirror type thing of, look what you've done and you should be ashamed, etc. Well, no, you just shove it aside and turn back to Jesus and said, "Help me, Lord."
For those people that are maybe listening and they're maybe that Sunday Catholic, what would you recommend as an entry level to having this sort of preparation? Because I feel like, as much as, as humans, we like to compartmentalize things.
Yeah.
We have TOB over here, we have pro-life over here, we got Mass over there. I'm somewhere I'm here, but like something that keeps on being shown to me as I go forth and try and work out how to be a Catholic in this world. It's all the same. It's all connected.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
And So like that Sunday Catholic, maybe they're saying, okay, I'm not gonna become a pro-life activist. I don't want to do that. What would you say that's encouraging for that person to maybe take faith a bit more seriously?
If we're talking about Sunday Catholic, which is where I was at all those years ago, it would be start with the homily, start with what you're hearing, and see whether there's one or two things from that you can reflect on, think about, ask God about when you remember to, and if at all possible, and it is possible, if at all possible, pray the rosary. That doesn't mean pray the whole rosary, all 40 decades or whatever, but if you can pray even one decade to start off with and work your way up to let's say the sorrowful mysteries on the appropriate day or whatever, then do so, because Mary will help. More than anything else, she wants you to be listening to and following Jesus, and she will help with that because that's what she wants. So yeah, those would be the things. But Mass first and foremost, and then the next thing I would say is don't be scared of confession.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Yeah, I like how you said to start with the homilies. Basically, it's just pay attention.
Yeah.
Just open your eyes, open your ears. It's already right in front of you.
Yep.
And I think, in this world of optimization, go for 1% is always a good start. Yeah. We've talked about a lot of things, and it's all been fantastic, and I feel like we could just carry on going on forever and ever, but I've got a pregnant wife to get back to. Shannon's got a job to start, and I'm sure you've got work that needs to be done. If anyone wants to find out more about the work you do, where can we go?
So the website is fli.org.nz. There's a fair bit on there. We would like to be able to completely rebuild that website, but that's a big job that's still to be done, so that it makes it more accessible and easy to work your way around. You can get in touch with us at, or you can get in touch with me. My email address is simon@fli.org.nz. Or you can call me or call our number. My phone number is 021 400 729. We also have the Catholic shop, Catholic gifts down below in this building. So that's another possibility. There's some great resources there and some wonderful, good, beautiful Catholic stuff there.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Simon. And thank you all guys for listening. And again, if you want to get involved with what we're doing with Evangelion, check us out at evangelion.co.nz. Stay tuned to our socials. I haven't been posting for a while, but I'm trying to get back onto it. And please all, of course, pray for all those people that are doing the work that God has called them to. We think of people like Charlie Kirk. We think of those poor children that were sacrificed, but we also think of the glory of heaven in our saints, brothers and sisters in heaven, especially Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati. So thanks for your time, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant.